Well, as we go to air, British MPs are demanding Rupert Murdoch's son James tell them the truth about his knowledge of widespread phone hacking by the now defunct News of the World newspaper. In possibly the stiffest test of his career, the News International chairman has been grilled by members of a select committee over his denial of any knowledge of the newspaper's criminal activity. The British MPs want to know exactly what James Murdoch knew and when, given some of his previous evidence has been contradicted by former senior executives. We'll cross live to correspondent Philip Williams in London now. And Phil, first of all, why is this particular questioning so important, coming as it does quite a long time after the first appearance?
It's important because there is this contradiction in the evidence coming from his former senior executives, legal counsel Tom Crane, and Colin Myler, the then editor of the News of the World, who has said we did tell him about other hacking events other than the first one that everyone knew about. He was aware of that. He's consistently said that was not the case. He said that the first time, and in evidence which he's giving right now, he said, no, they didn't explain that to me at a key meeting. I knew nothing of this email called For Neville, which explicitly listed others that were involved from the News of the World in hacking. Up till then, the paper had said, and the senior executives had said, it was one rogue reporter, Clive Goodman. He was jailed. That's it. But from that email, there was indications, of course, it was far more widespread than that. He says he never knew about it.
Yeah, just on that point, Phil, I was just watching it earlier. He seems to have been remarkably incurious about the fact that there was this memo. I mean, it seems that he knew there was a memo, but he didn't ask what was in it, how critical it was to the case they were making or anything of that nature. I mean, that itself doesn't lend a lot of credence to his argument.
Well, here he was signing a cheque for over £400,000 with legal expenses. It was $700,000 that the company was paying out to someone that had been hacked. And it was in that process that this other evidence evolved. Now, did he not ask questions? Why are we paying so much money when we normally, in a similar case, would pay a fraction of that amount? Yes, as you say, there are very many questions about why he didn't ask so many questions about it. But here's a little of what he said about what he was told, and why he's defending himself totally, saying that it's not his fault.
I mean, throughout the inquiry, you've claimed that you didn't know the detail of what was going on in your company. So do you think that internal evidence about phone hacking, for example, was kept from you?
It's clear to me that in 2008, for example, the information that I received around the Taylor case was incomplete. And it's also clear to me that in 2009, upon allegations arising in a newspaper about the Taylor case, that the full extent of the knowledge within the business, or the evidence within the business, as well as with the Metropolitan Police, was not made clear to me, and that's something that I'm very sorry for.
Who should have told you about it?
I think it's important to remember that after the resignation of Mr. Coulson in 2007, Mr. Hinton brought Mr. Myler in as an outside person who had a responsibility and a remit to both clean up the issue, investigate the issue, and move the company forward and the newspaper forward in a way that made sure that these things couldn't happen again. And if he had known, which is an if, that there was widespread criminality, or that there was evidence or sufficient suspicion of that, I should think he should have told me those things.
Clearly there are people in the company who knew what was going on and were not reporting it to you. So who should have reported these things to you?
As I answered the question earlier, I believe that where evidence or sufficient suspicion of widespread criminality or allegations of it were there, this was the job of the new editor who had come in to, for lack of a better word, to clean this up. To make me aware of those things. But on the contrary, I was not shown those things in 2008, and in 2009, I received the same assertions around the quality of those investigations and the lack of evidence that this committee received. And that's something that is a matter of regret.
Well, Phil, this is the critical piece of cross-examination so far, obviously. He's he's blaming the people that are blaming him. So Tom Crone and Colin Myler, the two executives who've contradicted his previous testimony, are now the ones he's saying haven't told him enough information, haven't given him enough information, perhaps even held information from him.
That's right, that's the implication. He's finally put a finger on someone he says should have had responsibility, and that's Colin Myler, the News of the World editor. But of course, Myler says exactly the opposite. He said this. No, I didn't say that. So there is that contradiction. How you sort that, I don't know. Especially as you've got simply a meeting and totally different accounts of what was said at that meeting. So the committee has a job ahead of it to decide who's said the right thing.
Yes, there doesn't appear to be anything in writing, does there, Phil? There are no minutes of these meetings, no memos between the men, between the executives, sort of explaining what each has explained to the other.
No, and this is what makes it all so terribly difficult to unravel, because it simply is. They've got their verbal accounts, and of course this is a couple of years ago. They're relying on their memories of specific conversations, but according to James Murdoch, he's got a very clear memory of not being told on repeated occasions when there is an opportunity to be told. So the conclusion is he knew nothing. And as the executive running the company, he says he should have been told, but just like his father said before him, the implication is he was let down by those below him, and now he's given a name to one of those executives.
Yeah, very briefly, a very clear memory on that, but a very hazy memory on the details of another conversation which Myler claims he had with James. So, the memory seems to slip and slide.
There is a lot of foggy memory around this whole process from very many witnesses. But look, just quickly too, this isn't quite the end of it. I'm sure he's going to be asked in a short space of time about other allegations that have been aired just in the last couple of days, which are that News International, the News of the World, was authorising surveillance of the very lawyers that were defending the hacking victims, Mark Lewis being one. He's now suing them. He says it's absolutely reprehensible. He was one of 153 tailed by a private investigator over some years. He says it's absolutely appalling that he and his family, his teenage daughters, were followed. And this process, apparently, according to this private investigator, was going on up until July this year.
OK, Phil, well, if they get to that while we're on air, we'll come back to you to talk about it. Thanks very much.